August 2022. A sea of linen suits and Patek Philippe's gathered on the manicured lawns of Pebble Beach, eyes fixed on a velvet curtain fluttering in the Pacific breeze. When the silk finally dropped, it revealed a vehicle bathed in a color called satin bronze, glowing like a desert sunset under the California sun. This wasn't just another luxury car, it was a $345,000 statement of intent, a limited-run machine designed for a zip code where a starter home cost 8 figures. In less than an hour, the entire production run was vaporized by buyers who didn't even ask for a test drive. What began in 1948 as a utilitarian tractor for British farmers has metastasized into the ultimate symbol of the global elite, a rolling fortress of ceramic and leather that costs more than the median American home. But beneath the 24-karat gold accents and the 600-horsepower engine lies a legacy of staggering unreliability, a brand that has teetered on the edge of bankruptcy for decades, and a pricing strategy that preys on the desperate need for exclusivity. We are living in an era where a depreciating asset is sold as a masterpiece and a check engine light is the most common accessory. This is the story of the Range Rover SV Carmel Edition. The story of the Range Rover does not begin in a design studio in Gaydon or a boardroom in Mumbai. It begins in the mud of a post-war Britain, where two brothers named Maurice and Spencer Wilkes sketched a silhouette in the sand of a Welsh beach. They needed a vehicle that could do everything: plough a field, haul timber, and survive the brutal winters of the English countryside. The original Land Rover was a Spartan box of aluminum and grit, built because steel was rationed and luxury was a memory. It was a tool, not a toy.
For 20 years, it remained the backbone of the British Empire, the choice of explorers, soldiers, and queens who weren't afraid to get their boots dirty. Then came 1970. The Range Rover was born from a realization that the wealthy wanted to go off-road, but they didn't want to be uncomfortable while doing it. It was a revolution, the world's first true luxury SUV. It had permanent four-wheel drive, coil springs for a smoother ride, and a V8 engine that could actually keep up with traffic. It was the vehicle that bridged the gap between the manor house and the hunting grounds. But even then, the seeds of the brand's central irony were planted. The Range Rover was designed to be the most capable vehicle on the planet, yet it was increasingly purchased by people who would never let its tires touch anything more treacherous than a gravel driveway. Fast forward to the present day, and that irony has reached its logical, absurd conclusion: the SV Carmel Edition. To understand why this SUV costs a house, you have to look at the math of modern luxury. The base Range Rover starts at around $100,000, a price point that is already out of reach for 95% of the population. But for the ultra-wealthy, $100,000 is common. It's the price of a mid-tier Mercedes or a well-optioned Cadillac. In a world of billionaire abundance, luxury is no longer defined by quality, it is defined by scarcity. The Carmel Edition is limited to just 17 units. That number is not a reflection of manufacturing capacity, it is a calculated act of psychological warfare. By creating a supply that is functionally zero, Land Rover ensures that the demand remains infinite among the people who equate price with worth. The Carmel Edition is essentially a masterclass in the Veblen effect, a phenomenon where the demand for a good increases as its price rises, specifically because it serves as a status symbol.
When you buy a Carmel Edition, you aren't paying for the 4.4-litre twin-turbo V8, though it is plenty powerful. You aren't paying for the 23-inch diamond-turned wheels or the SV Signature Suite 4-seat configuration. You are paying for the right to tell your neighbours at the country club that you have one of 17. You are paying $200,000 in pure markup for the privilege of being part of an invisible inner circle. Inside the cabin, the sensory overload is meant to justify the six-figure premium. The interior is draped in Perlino and deep garnet leathers, materials sourced from cattle raised in high-altitude environments where there are no barbed wire fences to scar their hides. The control surfaces, the knobs for the volume and the terrain response system are crafted from white ceramic, a material that takes weeks to fire and polish. The trim is made of cream ash burr wood, hand-finished to ensure the grain flows seamlessly across the dashboard. There is an integrated refrigerator, electrically deployable club tables, and crystal glassware etched with the SV logo. It is a cathedral of excess, designed to isolate the occupants from the messy reality of the outside world. But here is where the polished veneer begins to crack. Land Rover, and by extension the Range Rover brand, has spent the last 30 years at the bottom of nearly every reliability index on the planet. JD Power, Consumer Reports, and various European breakdown surveys consistently rank the brand as one of the most headache-inducing ownership experiences in the automotive industry. The more technology they cram into these vehicles, the more points of failure they create. The air suspension that provides a magic carpet ride is notorious for collapsing, leaving the vehicle slumped on its tyres. The sophisticated infotainment systems are known for ghosting or blacking out entirely. The very engines that provide such effortless power are often plagued by oil leaks and cooling issues that can turn a $300,000 investment into a very expensive paperweight.
There is a dark humour among Range Rover owners. If there isn't an oil leak under your car, it's because there's no oil left in it. And yet, the sales numbers continue to climb. The brand has achieved a level of failure-proof prestige. To a Range Rover buyer, a breakdown isn't a sign of poor engineering, it's a sign that the machine is too sophisticated for the mundane world. They are willing to pay the Range Rover tax, the exorbitant repair bills and the constant trips to the dealership because the badge carries more weight than the mechanical reality. This leads to a deeper, more cynical truth about why the Carmel Edition exists. Land Rover is owned by Tata Motors, an Indian conglomerate that rescued the brand from the wreckage of Ford's Premier Automotive Group in 2008. For years, JLR, Jaguar Land Rover, has struggled with razor-thin margins and massive debt. The cost of developing electric vehicles and meeting global emissions standards is staggering. To survive, they cannot rely on selling mass-market vehicles at competitive prices. They have pivoted to a house of brands strategy, focusing on high-margin, ultra-luxury editions that provide massive infusions of cash with minimal overhead. The Carmel Edition is a financial lifeline disguised as a collector's item. By taking an existing vehicle, changing the paint, upgrading the leather, and slapping a 1 of 17 plaque on the doorsill, Land Rover can charge a 300% premium. It is the ultimate expression of corporate alchemy, turning leather and marketing into gold. It is a strategy designed to extract maximum capital from a tiny segment of the population that is completely insulated from inflation, interest rates, or the cost of living. While the average person is struggling to afford a mortgage or even a used Honda, the Carmel Edition represents a world where money has lost its traditional meaning.
It is an artifact of the SUV-ification of the global economy, where every manufacturer from Lamborghini to Ferrari has been forced to build a high-riding truck because that is where the profit lies. The SUV is no longer a tool for exploration, it is a fortress. It is a way for the wealthy to navigate crumbling infrastructure and social unrest while sitting in a climate-controlled bubble of Perlino leather. The Carmel Edition also highlights the absurdity of modern environmental optics. Land Rover markets itself with images of pristine wilderness and untouched landscapes. They talk about their commitment to sustainability and their path to electrification. Yet they continue to produce 5,800-pound behemoths powered by thirsty V8 engines designed to be driven a few thousand miles a year before being traded in for the next shiny toy. The carbon footprint of producing the ceramic dials alone probably outweighs the lifetime emissions of a budget commuter car.
It is a brand built on the celebration of nature, yet its primary product is a machine that helps accelerate the destruction of the very environments it purports to love. In the end, the Range Rover SV Carmel Edition is not really a car. You don't buy it for transportation, you buy it as a hedge against anonymity. It is a $345,000 ticket to a theatre of the absurd, where the seats are made of hand-stitched hide and the play is about the death of utility. It is a beautiful, fragile, over-engineered monument to a moment in history when we decided that a status symbol was worth more than a roof over someone's head. It is a vehicle that can climb the highest mountains, but will likely spend its life crawling through traffic in the Hamptons or sitting in a climate-controlled garage in Dubai.
As the automotive world moves toward a future of autonomous pods and electric efficiency, the Carmel Edition feels like the last gasp of a dying era, a gilded dinosaur that refuses to acknowledge the meteor on the horizon. It is the peak of the internal combustion age, wrapped in a satin bronze cloak of arrogance. We have reached the point where the car has transcended its purpose, becoming a purely emotional, financial, and social weapon. The people who bought the 17 Carmel editions don't care about the reliability ratings, they don't care about the fuel economy, they don't even care that they could have bought a literal house for the same price. They care that when they pull up to the valet, they are the only person in the room with those specific ceramic dials and that specific shade of bronze. They have purchased a slice of exclusivity in a world where everything else is mass-produced. This is the story of a brand that forgot how to build tractors and learned how to build dreams for the disillusioned elite. This is the story of how we turned a rugged tool of the empire into a fragile trophy of the 1%. This is the hollow, leather-scented truth behind the SUV that costs a house.